All right, guys, we're back with our next math lesson. And this one is over 3D shapes, okay? And they're unlike 2D shapes. They are like 2D shapes, only they have some of the same attributes in a way. But these have dimension to them, where a 2D shape is your flat, like you can put it on a wall and it's not going to take up a lot of room. 3D shapes are different in that they have depth to them. And I'm going to show you my chart of 3D shapes. We have a triangular prism, a cylinder, a rectangular prism, a pyramid, a cube, a cone, and a sphere. Now on our sphere here, it does look flat, doesn't it? But think of that as a ball, any round ball. Your kickball, your baseball, your basketball, all of those balls are called spheres. But it's really hard to draw a sphere with dimension to it. So they just put that there. But just know a sphere is actually a ball shape, or a ball, not a ball shape, a ball. When we talk about 3D shapes, we are going to talk about all the parts of a 3D shape. So let's go back to 2D shapes. We looked at the sides and the vertices of a 2D shape. We also briefly touched on the angle of it. But for right now, we were focusing on the sides and the vertices. Well, that's all great, and that applies to 2D shapes. But when we go to 3D shapes, we're going to look at it differently. And I actually was at school and grabbed all of my shapes that I could muster out, my box of them. And I so wish we were together so that you could touch them, you can feel them, and you can manipulate them. I think that's an important thing. And you probably have objects at home that you could use for this. The reason I went and got mine and didn't use objects at home was because I could not come up and find a pyramid in my house, something in the shape of a pyramid. And I went through the Legos thinking, surely there's a Lego in here, but I could not find one. So I went ahead and got mine from school. But what the most important thing is, there's 3 attributes we're going to apply to 3D shapes. And I'm going to use my cube because we all know the basic cube. I can turn it, has shape to it. It's a box, right? A box. Between a cube and a rectangular prism, these are like your boxes. A cube, though, can you tell the difference between a cube and a rectangular prism? Yeah, a cube has that shape of a square, where a rectangular prism is more rectangle. It's a rectangle. Now it does have a shape of a square on one side, so we're going to talk about that. But when we're talking about 3D shapes, we're looking for those 3 attributes, okay? And they're similar to 2D. We still have our vertices, okay? But instead of a side, like we had in our 2D shapes, we have an edge. And this here is my edge. And I have an edge here, and an edge here, and an edge here. And there's edges all around my 3D shape. And so instead of counting the sides, we count our edges on a 3D shape. How many edges does it have? Now we have our vertices, and a vertice is where your 2 edges come together and meet. It's that point where 2 edges meet. So 2 of the attributes so far would be edge and vertice. How many edges does it have and how many vertices does it have? The final attribute of a 3D shape is going to be, it's the flat, or the face. It's that flat side. We call that the face of it. And there's many different shapes to make our face. All right, but on a rectangular, or a cube, I'm sorry, on a cube, the faces, if I keep turning it, are all squares. So how many faces does it have? I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 faces and 6 square faces on a cube. Next, we can count the vertices. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to go to the back side. 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 vertices. What about edges? Let's count them. This one is where it gets a little tricky. And we tend to repeat ourselves. So sometimes if this is drawn on paper, it's easier to put numbers next to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I have to go to the back side. 9, 10, 11, 12. There's actually 12 edges on a cube, okay? There's 6 faces, 8 vertices, and 12 edges. Now remember, your edge is where 2 faces meet. That's your edge. Your vertice or vertex is where 2 edges meet. So that's a cube. Rectangular prism, it's going to be the same number of edges, faces, and vertices as the cube. Okay, so these are your simple ones. Now, look at your triangular prism. This is a triangular prism. Why do you think it's called triangular? Yeah, it looks like a triangle. If I look, as I drop it, if I look at the different parts of it, all those faces, they're triangles, right? Yeah, they're triangles. So we can go ahead and count the vertices, because remember, vertices are the point where 2 edges meet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Faces are the flat parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 faces. Now, how many edges? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And all of the faces are triangles. Remember we talked about those faces. Look back to this rectangular prism. 4 of the faces of a rectangular prism are rectangles, but 2 of the faces are squares. Yeah, 2 are squares. Then we can go to the sphere. This one's pretty simple. Your sphere. Yeah, little ball. How many faces? None. None. There's no faces. You know what? There's no flat sides to it. They are all curved. And a face has to be flat. It cannot be curved. So when we get to a sphere, we say there are no faces. There is 0, zip, zilch, none. How many vertices? Well, first, are there any edges on a sphere? No, no edges. So can I have a vertice? No. I can't have an edge because I don't have a face. And if I don't have an edge, I can't have a vertex or a vertice. So a sphere has 0 edges, 0 faces, and 0 vertices. Pretty simple. Next, I'll go to the pyramid next. The pyramid. You guys know a pyramid, right? Looks like this. Think of Egypt. Egyptian pyramids. We know these. If we look at the bottom of a pyramid, it is actually a square, right? The flat or the face of the bottom of a pyramid is a square. Unlike the triangular prism, it's a triangle. The cube is a square. Or not the cube, I'm sorry, the pyramid is a square. But my other faces are what? Yeah, they're triangles. So on a pyramid, I have how many faces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 faces. 4 of the faces are triangles, and 1 face is a square. How many edges do I have? So now that I know I have faces, I can count my edges, right? Because I have to have faces to make an edge. Come together, make an edge. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have 8 edges. How many vertices? Do you see it? If I just hold it like this, can you guys kind of make an estimate, a guess, or quickly count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 vertices. So if I were to describe a pyramid, I would say, well, it is a 3D shape that has 5 faces. 4 of those faces are triangles. 1 face is a square. It had 8 edges and 5 vertices. Pyramid. Now we get into some fun ones. Yeah, they're going to confuse you at first because you're going to be like, oh, yeah, but we're going to talk about this. So let's start with a cylinder. Cylinder, think of a can of soup, a can of beans, can of something, can of corn, whatever you think of as in a can, comes in a can. That's what a cylinder is, okay? So if I look at my cylinder, does it have a face? It does have a face, actually. It has 2 faces. 1 face and 2 faces. So there's 2 faces, right? And what are their shapes of the face? Yeah, there's circles. Circles, 2 faces with circles. Does it have an edge? Are you thinking? What makes an edge? Where 2 faces come together makes an edge. Do my 2 faces of my cylinder come together? They do not. They're on opposite ends. So that means a cylinder does not have an edge anywhere. Because this is round, it can't be a face. It wraps around it. We cannot call that a face. A face has to be flat. And this adds, we can use this to talk more about an edge. An edge is where 2 faces come together, and that edge has to be in a straight line. An edge will always be in a straight line. That's why what you see right around here is not an edge. When you get up into the upper grades, they can come up with a new name for that, but we are not going there. So we just need to know that a cylinder, does it have a vertex? If it doesn't have an edge, can it have a vertex or a vertex? It cannot. So to describe a cylinder, we say it is a 3D shape with 2 faces that are circles, 0 edges, and 0 vertices. All right. Got it? Cylinder. Now you know it. And let's move to our final one. Now, we all love an ice cream cone, right? Can't go wrong with an ice cream cone, especially an Uncle Bob's ice cream cone. With the caramel, praline, whatever ice cream they have there. That's the best. But I'm not going to put ice cream on my cone today, but we are going to talk about a cone. This is a cone. Remember, if you read some old books, they used to have these cone shape they put on your head as a dunce cap. If you were bad, you'd have to wear the dunce cap and put it in a corner. Thought you might enjoy that. Not when I was school. It was way before my time. And you know how old I am. So imagine when that happened. But this is what we call a cone. And I'm going to turn it around so you can see all the different sides of it. Does it have a face? Yes, it does. It has 1 face on the bottom. And it's a circle. It has 1 face of the circle. Does it have an edge? Remember, to have an edge, it has to be where 2 faces, a face and a face, meet. And it has to be straight. So does my cone have an edge? No, it does not. There are no edges on my cone. None. 0. Zilch. Does it have a vertex or a vertex? I know you all are shouting, yeah, it does, because look right there. But guess what? Remember, the definition of vertex is where 2 edges meet. 2 edges meet. Does my cone have an edge? Does it have two edges? So can those two edges meet to make a vertex? No, we call this a point. And that, again, that's going to go back to your cylinder. You're going to learn about this later on down the road when you're much older. But for right now, I just want you to know this is not a vertex, it's a point. Because here, this is not flat to make a face. It wraps around it. Okay, so these two actually fall in a kind of different category. It's still a 3D shape, but there's different categories under 3D shapes. So when I go to describe a cone, I'm going to say, yes, it has one face, it has a circle, but it has 0 edges and 0 vertices. None. Okay? So when you are doing your work today, I want you to remember what I told you. If you want, go around your house and try to find an example of each of our 3D shapes. See if you have an example of each one. See if you can find a pyramid. And Mrs. King, I'm sure I'm not thinking of everything, but maybe you just happen to have a pyramid. I kept thinking Shirley knows Legos would have a pyramid in them, but they don't. So see if you can find a pyramid. And if you do, will you send a picture to me to see what you found that's a pyramid in your house? Your homework today is going to be looking at a 3D shape, a picture of a 3D shape, and telling me the number of faces, edges, and vertices. Okay, and your key walkaway points right now is to remember the cone and the cylinder and what that means for its edges and vertices. Okay, and then your next assignment, you're going to answer some riddles about shapes. So that will be on Friday. But for today, you just need to complete that in Google Doc. And remember, there's 2 pages on your Google Doc. 2. So do both pages, please. Some of you guys forgot to do the second page last time. So make sure you do both pages, all right? If you have questions, reach out to me. I'm around and love to talk to you guys. See ya.